All right, let's get our Facebook friends up in
Yeah,
here
I'm
before
just
it's
gonna
officially time.
remind you. Our guy Dale Fleming was in the house way early. I hopped in the green room and saw Dale. Dale, we see ya.
What's up? Let's say hello to some guys. We're in. We're good. Good morning or good
Dylan.
afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome in. It is Saturday evening. It's time for an episode of Mile High Insiders and the last Mile High Insiders before we have a good idea of what is going on in the draft. I guess we'll be going live next Saturday as well. So that's where a lot of the meat of the draft for the Broncos will be this time. But welcome in, guys. Happy Saturday, Luke. It's good to see you. How you doing?
What's up, man? Getting ready to go into draft week. It's what we've all
Oh
been
yeah.
working for here at MHH. You and I, we're draft nuts, just like a lot of the other cats on the other shows. Last night's crew, right? And a couple of draft nuts. And Chad and Zach got some special news coming down the pike and awesome
Yeah.
draft coverage from all of us here at MHH. So, dude, I'm pumped, man. We were just talking off screen about what next Saturday is going to look like. And next Saturday is just going to be a Saturday MHI takeover starting at 10 a.m. for the draft. So we will keep you guys up to date. But I'm pumped, man. It's here. It's finally here. It's like Christmas morning. We are so close.
Yeah, I know. We already got our Christmas gift early, maybe on St. Nick's Day, with Russell Wilson coming in. And I love George Payton saying, I know there's been some, little maybe curmudgeon takes of like, you can't say the Broncos' first round pick was Russell Wilson this year. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be like George Payton, like day one. Oh, I'm just going to pop on the
And
Russell
next year, too.
Wilson highlights next year, too. Yeah, heck, let them roll. Hopefully, there'll be highlights from the 2022 season. But let's see Dylan coming in here saying, Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much, Dylan. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Dylan.
Paul is in the house too. Nick and Luke and Scott and Dylan. Good evening, Broncos country. Good to see you, Paul.
What's up, Paul?
And Paul says Peyton needs to double up 2023 assets, so he needs 4 more 2023 draft assets via trade. Unless the gem drops, I'm expecting 64 to the highest bidder. Thank you so much for joining us today, Paul. Thank you for the comment, and curious what you have to think about this one, Luke. Pick 64 up for bid.
Yeah, Paul, I like it. And obviously, Paul's referring to George Payton's recent press conference. Every year, right, they roll out a pre-draft press conference. And sometimes they're really stale, if I'm going to be honest. And you hear the same thing of, I'm not going to give away what we're going to do. This year, it's a lot different. The Broncos don't have a number 1 pick. So what did George Payton do? He alluded to the fact that the Broncos do have maneuverability. Now, while he would like to try to get some of that compensation back for future years, including this draft, he also hinted at the idea of we need to trade up in the second round. That's an option. And I really liked that aspect of it myself because I got guys I want them to move up for. They moved up last year in the second round. We weren't expecting it. I think Paul's hitting the nail right on the head here. George Payton, if he wants somebody, he moves heaven and earth to go get him.
Yeah, no, it will be really interesting. I think that you will see the Broncos maneuver around the draft board and collect 2023 draft capital using their not excess of picks this year, but 9 picks. I mean, that's still a solid bet. I would expect the Broncos to probably finish with, God, 8 to 10, right? Or one more or one less, but they'll definitely be trading down and working their way to accumulate more 2023 draft capital. So as far as like points on the board for 2022 draft picks, that'll be less when you walk out of this draft because they'll be getting a little bit more 2023 assets. But I don't think it's going to be 64 that's up for bid. I think they're going to take somebody at 64. I'm thinking 75 is going to be the selection where the Broncos are going to be moving around. I think they're going to want somebody there at 64. So we'll see, though. I mean, just feeling the wind there. That's, how's it going? Ashley also coming in. Good to see you, Ashley. Hello to our Mile High Insider Mile High Huddle ladies. And she says, hey, Luke and Nick, what's your favorite hot take for the draft? All right, Luke. God.
Hot take.
Sit down. This is
Hot
the whole
take
show.
radio. Welcome to MHI. I'm your host, Luke Patterson. No, so I guess if I went hot take, how about this? George Payton will make a trade. That's not the hot take. It's going to involve a player or two. How about that for a hot take? Maybe if you want to get some future picks, you try to deal some receivers. Dare I say a receiver? I don't think like a Jerry Jeudy or anything like that. But if you've got some young up and comers, maybe KJ Hamler, you can get a draft pick for or something like that. And Tyree Cleveland has some potential as well. And it's just one of those things for me where I'm not looking to sell players, but other teams are going to poke around because George Payton is doing a decent job. And I just think that maybe you could see a name or two maybe on the move. That's just speculation, not hearing anything. But if you want more, you got to give up more. And the Broncos don't have a ton to give up in terms of draft capital.
Yeah, my hot take is that, and you've kind of heard me probably hint at this, Luke. This will get an eye roll from you, and we disagree, but that's totally fine. I think that in this offense specifically, the type of players that are available in this draft class, it would be silly for the Broncos to use pick 64 on the tight end position. Now, if there was a Kyle Pitts or a freak athlete, TJ Hawkinson, all the way around tight end that fell to that vein, okay, but they don't fall there. And I think with Russell Wilson specifically, not looking to take checkdowns, not using the short middle of the field, I don't think while it is, when you look at the Broncos roster, an obvious weakness, I don't think it matters that much because I don't think they're going to utilize that position more so than the wide receivers and the running backs in the run game. So that's my hot take. I think that the tight end position itself for the Broncos with Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett, both those guys, his offense didn't really utilize tight ends that much in the pass game, volume wise. So I think the tight end position, Broncos country, is a little bit too hot on their heels with that one when it's probably not going to be as valuable, in my opinion.
Nah, Nick's just mad that his Bay is gone and is up there. You're closer to Bay now. Noah's closer to you. You're good. You're up there in Seattle. No, that's a really good conversation that we were going to get into. Tease that a little bit later for the show, because Nick, you got a lot of evidence that supports that. You threw it out there on your Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. You can find me at Luke Patterson LP. I want to give my guy Gavin a shout out. Gavin is right in the middle of taking EMT testing, and that is always fun. Saying, Luke, I just passed my third exam, man. 2 more to go. Congratulations. Way to better yourself. I'm really proud of you, man. Gavin's a good friend of mine. I had to pass that same EMT test when I became a firefighter, and it's not fun, man. Those tests and stuff like that, Nick, tests and all that kind of fun stuff. It's stressful, but boy, the sense of achievement when you finally get that certification, that degree, that license, that sense of accomplishment, when you've bettered yourself through educational means or health or anything in your life, I think that should be celebrated. So huge tip of the cap to Gavin, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. Congrats to you. Good for you. I mean, anything accomplishment. We celebrate all, achievements and milestones here because you only have so many, right? So celebrate the good things. Nothing's too small to celebrate. Paul coming back in with a good question here. Are you comfy enough to take a center at 64 if you're George Payton, or should that be a mid-third move? Well, 64 to 75, that's not a big range difference there. I think that if Tyler Linderbaum falls to 64, he won't. But that's a conversation to have. I also think there's a conversation to be had about Cam Jurgens at 64, given his movement skills, athleticism, power, frame. I mean, he has almost 34-inch arm length, which for a center is very good. So I think you have a conversation about Cam Jurgens from Nebraska there at 64. But I mean, at pick 64, I want to see what the board looks like. Do one of those top safeties fall there? Is there a cornerback you love? One of the plethora of edge rushers, Travis Jones, an offensive tackle. So it's hard to say. 64, some guys might be there that I'd prefer, but I think Tyler Linderbaum, yes, if he's there, I'll take him. Will he be there? No, but want to throw that out there. And then Cam Jurgens, I think it's more possible than a lot of people are talking about right now for pick 64.
I think we're overlooking the fact that Russell Wilson is a freak when it comes to preparation and football. And if he's good with Lloyd Cushenberry, that's the way they're going to roll, at least right now. They're not going to, in my opinion, spend a premium draft pick on a center position. That's not to say that I agree that they shouldn't. That's just, I don't think they will. Russ prints out reports. Okay. We've talked about this for each position after the games and basically grades them and then gives scouting reports for the next week's team. He knows what Lloyd Cushenberry looks like, at least on film, and snapping against air. I don't know if that's a term. We always say throwing on air, but how about snapping on air? Because that's what Lloyd was doing up there with Russ in the San Diego camp, if you will. But I just don't see it. I really don't. We'll have to see. But Dale Fleming, speaking of seeing, he's seeing prime time action right now, saying, I made another live show, barely. We appreciate you, Dale. Dale was in the live stream super, super early. And Billy coming in, Billy Homan. Hi, Luke, Nick, and Scott. Scott, we gave Scott the night off. He's always, slaving away, and he's got some family obligations. So always spend time with your loved ones, folks. Todd's in the house as well, saying hi, Nick, Luke, Scott, Dylan, and Broncos country. Thank you for joining us, and a good friend of ours, Ernie Mays. What's up, Nick?
Good friends.
What's up, Luke? Go Broncos. Let's draft Chad Muma. That's my red dot. Boom. There's one of my red dots.
The red star.
Yeah. No, he's everything I want and more, man. Like, he's everything I want and more. My guy Cecil asked about him George Payton at the press conference, and thought Payton's answer was a little interesting, talking about the what do you have to value with a linebacker in 2022, more or less, and alluded to some Baron Browning references, but instincts came up over and over and over, and he wouldn't reference Muma or anything like that, but we know that George Payton likes to like stay away from guys, like with Pat Surtain, right? Like, oh no, I love him, I'm gonna stay away from him so no one knows. It just makes me wonder what's going on over there. What's George Payton's board gonna look like? We're gonna have an idea really, really soon.
Yeah. So let's say I load a few more people here, but let's circle back to this Red Star. So what our concept today is for the show was when NFL teams are building boards, they obviously have the front office and all the area scouts and blah, blah, blah. But each person, I guess some people get more than one, but they get a red star that they can place on a prospect card that is essentially like, this is my guy. I'm standing on a table for him. I'm going to bat for him. Daniel Jeremiah spoke about it recently. I think this originated from the Baltimore Ravens, and now almost every single team does this. So the red star, Yep, Ozzie Newsome. So the Red Star players, we'll get to that here in a bit after we say hello to some people in here. Ashton's in the house. What's up, homies? Getting ready for Chubb to get traded for picks.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Bring it down. There's a hot take for you, Ashley. Ashton's coming in. A little Ash on Ash connection there. I love it, man. If what would a good trade for Bradley Chubb look like for you?
It would be a year from now. And it would be for multiple seconds and a third because he had a good season. It's selling low. You have such a huge hole. I'm already concerned about the edge rusher position, and then to get rid of one of your top two guys. If somebody offers you a first round pick, then okay. But I don't think you're going to get more than like a third and maybe a future conditional fourth. Yeah. And I think you probably, with the way this team is set up, he's quote unquote healthy for the first time. I would rather keep him in my pocket for this season for the control and either tag and trade him next year if he has a good year, or bank on him getting a big contract, former 5th overall picked, edge rusher, those guys get paid, and getting a compensatory pick in 2024 that's probably going to be more value than just trading him right now. So I think you're a year early on that, but it's definitely something to keep in mind for the horizon, depending on what happens with Bradley Chubb this season.
Yeah, it just sucks when Bradley Chubb's goal is to play every game. I mean, I just wish, like, I'm not trying to take a, swipe at him, but it's just, he knows his injury history. So I appreciate his humility, but I'm wishing the best for him, just like we all are. And then Randy Gregory, it is what it is there. So Jonathan Cooper, you're up. Malik Reed, we all know how you feel about him. You're up. It's the same thing, man. George Payton talked about it. Edge is deep in this draft. It's the deepest position here, arguably. So I think Peyton's going to definitely try to pick one or two up in this draft. Mark is weighing in. Mark 91. This week is going to feel like an eternity. Absolutely. The draft week is kicking off on Thursday night, Nick, round 1. It's going to be even longer for Broncos country because I don't think Denver's going to reach. I really don't. So it's going to be a real long Thursday night.
I was going to say Thursday and Friday are going to feel like an eternity, but hopefully patience wins out in the day, unless there's a guy that the Broncos feel they have to go get, then they can hopefully get a good deal for it, but we'll see. Tall, Dark, and Mexican coming in here saying, good evening, fellas. Glad to catch the show tonight. Glad to catch you in here, Dark, Tall, and Mexican as well. Good to see you. Thanks, Vegas countdown. Can't wait. Curious to see if we trade some players for 2023 picks. Atwater's Army, Mojica.
Yeah.
So
Atwater's Army, man. Yeah. The Smiling Assassin had a special out. I didn't get to see it. It's on the DVR though. So if you guys got to see, did you get to see it, Nick?
I haven't seen it yet. Nope.
Okay.
Been busy taking advantage of the sun.
If somebody saw it, don't spoil it, but let me know what you thought, because that was really interesting. And that's awesome. I don't know if you're going to Vegas or if it's just a countdown to Vegas, but it's going to be cool. The draft life is starting to resume. Joey coming in as well. Hello, Broncos country from Japan. That is what's up. Some orange and blue out there in the is it the land of the rising sun? Is that
yes, sir?
Saying it correctly? All right, cool. I wanted to make sure I wasn't butchering that.
No, absolutely. Luke Wright coming in too, saying, hey, what's up, guys? Pop in and just say hi. Good to see you. My guess also, what's up, Broncos country? David's in the house. David and I go back pretty far, so good to see you, David. He says, hey, Nick and Luke, let's ride. Good to see you, David. Greg Smith's in here. Aloha, Greg. We always like to say. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Robbie banging the table for his guy, saying Troy Anderson at 64 if he's there. That's his Red Star player, so that's fun to think about. And Derek getting a comment in here. Derek over on Facebook, and want to pivot real quick. Make sure you guys, especially on Facebook, but YouTube as well, getting your stars and super chats in for a chance to win our monthly jersey raffle off. And Obviously, people really want the Russell Wilson jersey, number 3. Hard to get it on shelves, et cetera, right now. But if you're getting in the stars and the super chats right now for a chance to win those jerseys, you could be one of the first owners of the Broncos' new draft picks coming in. This draft is going to be over the end of this month. You know that it's Trey McBride there at 64. Broncos take him. You want that McBride jersey? Hey, if you win the raffle for the super chats and superstars, you could be one of the first with a Broncos Trey McBride jersey, a Broncos Chad Muma jersey, or a Broncos Troy Anderson jersey, as Robbie wanted there. Derek Player coming in here saying, I think we need more defensive line help. Well, Luke, what do you think? We haven't talked too much about the defensive line, but I really do agree with Derek's comment here.
Yeah, I think defensive line is a position that you're going to need help at. I think Mike Purcell could be a camp veteran casualty. That wouldn't be a big stretch. So let's talk about it, I guess. Defensive linemen that are going to be at least in the range of where the Broncos are at. For me, I think Logan Hall is definitely there. It's maybe one of the first or second. Big Cat out of Houston, and then maybe Winfrey. I like him out of Oklahoma too. But man, again, those are some premium picks. I don't know if I love the need enough to go after somebody and trade up for a defensive lineman, but I'm definitely considering it on Saturday night when we're a Saturday afternoon MHI takeover. Do it then so we can report about it right here on MHI.
Yeah, it's coming up. I mean, I would click my heels and not sit down very well for the next 24 hours if the Broncos somehow ended up with Travis Jones. I would absolutely love him, but he's probably going to go in the back end of the first round or one of the first 10 picks in the second round. And you're probably not trading up for a defensive tackle as much as it would be nice to add a guy. I mean, the Rams last year ran a lot of 5-1-5 defensive looks with 5 down linemen, 3 interior guys, 5 or 2 edge rushers, and then the singular linebacker back there. And that would be something you might see with the Broncos here again, especially if they did get a Perion Winfrey or Travis Jones. Also really do like Logan Hall there. At 64, I don't think there's probably another interior defensive lineman I would be interested in at that spot. I mean, DeMarvin Leal had a little bit tweenerish, didn't have the best year. Fedarian Mathis is more of a nose tackle to me, maybe a run stuffing 3 technique if you wanted a 2 gap or gap and a half from that spot. But probably better to wait on the interior defensive line after those early guys. Would love Logan Hall. Scott and I disagree on Logan Hall, but I think Logan Hall would be a heck of a get for the Broncos there. Tall, Dark, and Mexican coming back in saying headed to Vegas next Wednesday after work. 4 of us heading to Las Vegas to live it up, and our draft fanatics went to the one in Dallas, and it was awesome. That's great, man. That's so cool.
Nice. That's one thing I haven't done. I want to do. I want to be able to cover a draft, hopefully down the road. Have you got to cover one live at a draft yet?
Nope, I have not done one live. I was really close to one in Chicago a few years ago, but the weather was like horrible. I don't know if you remember that one. It was like wet and like it's 38 degrees here in Chicago. It's like, well, Chicago in April. Like, it could have been
shocking.
Who knows? It was terrible weather though.
Yeah.
Leroy coming in too says we got some takes on pick 64. I love it, man. I'm really excited for the depth of this class and for everybody talking about the depth. At 64, I'd rather get a defensive tackle or right tackle. 75 would be edge or cornerback. For me, it's more about who's available there. And if there was a tight end that I loved in this class that fell to that range, I'd be saying, okay, fine, take him. I just don't love any of them at 64, which is why I kind of seem like to have a hard line at tight end. But really, it depends on how the board falls. It could be a center. It could be a right tackle. It could be a cornerback, edge, defensive tackle, safety, linebacker too. I mean, heck, if Chad Muma is there or Quay Walker's there, I'm not going to fight you too hard if those are the guys that the Broncos walk away with, because I love those guys. And 64 is where you should be considering that kind of position, that kind of player. So I wouldn't have an issue with it at all. But defensive right tackle, whatever, just come away with a difference maker.
Yeah, Abraham Lucas, man. I was telling you, I kind of went down the rabbit hole there on him a little bit more. Went back to him, and I'm really impressed. If he was there, I would be okay with it at 64. I really would. I don't think it's a reach. I think it's very fair. I think it's surprised that he would be there, but right tackle, man, the Broncos have got to clean that up. That's what Chase is saying. Fortify the trenches. Either way, offense, defense, we need to continue to have up and comers. You need to start developing some guys waiting in the wings, if you will. Quinn Miners, Dalton Reisners, those players that can step right in as rookies and play don't come around that often, or if they do, they struggle. The Lloyd Cushenberry, he struggled at least since he's been a rookie, but he played every game, Nick. I mean, that's pretty impressive too. So it's you got to have guys waiting in the wings, and that's what the Broncos have really screwed up, and that's why their special teams has been as god awful as they have. And George Payton talked about it yesterday out there at UC Health Training Center.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about fortifying the trenches, Willie coming in, wanting to win the jersey with the giveaway with the super chat here. Thank you so much, Willie, saying right tackle, linebacker, or defensive back. I mean, you might as well add edge and defensive tackle too. Those are the spots that really
Yeah.
stand out to me. It would be a shock if the Broncos went a different direction for me personally at pick 64. I guess the other position that we can hinted at earlier, but center, I think is very much a possibility if Cam Jurgens is there. And it's not really I guess it kind of is disrespect, but it's reality. I mean, this is a competitive business, and Lloyd Cushenberry has been a pretty poor center the last 2 years, and that's an area that this Broncos team, if they brought in a better scheme fit, that's an alarm bell for that one with Lloyd Cushenberry, the wide zone scheme, and somebody who would be cost controlled for the next 2 years, maybe get some 2023 seventh round pick, 2024 sixth round pick by moving on from Cushenberry. That might be more valuable for this team, but I hear you, Willie. Right tackle, linebacker, defensive back. I would add edge rusher up there too.
Yeah.
But those are all definite spots.
I think you're looking at like a Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska or McCreary out of Auburn late in the second round. But again, I don't see a rush on corners, but you never know, right? Because you can never have enough corners, as Vic Fangio famously said once, right? But that's really the case. But where are you going to take them? I could see George Payton wanting to take them and try to find his gem a little later when it comes to corner, especially since he just drafted one in the first round last year and hit a home run with PS2. Speaking of home runs, there's our guy, Dan Marks, saying, "What's up? Hello, fellas." Hi, with his Russell Wilson ready to ride graphic. Absolutely love it on the profile pic. Clee is coming in here as well. Here's a good question for you, Nick. Do you know much about defensive tackle Noah Ellis out of Ohio?
If he's from Idaho. This is Idaho. There.
Idaho, excuse me.
Yep, it's all good. The land of the potatoes, right? But yeah, Idaho, very stout defensive tackle.
A vandal.
A vandal, exactly. Yep, Noah Ellis, probably going to go late day 3, and he weighs about 350 pounds in a 6 foot. God, what's his frame here? 6'4" frame.
Okay, I thought he was 6'3", maybe, but
6'4" according to the combine.
He's got some weight concerns, man.
He does have some weight concerns, and he doesn't move that well. He is big, but he's also just kind of not a great athlete. Ran a 5'6", 640 with a 185 10-yard split. Not very good. And the other concerning thing for me is for somebody that big, you want them to be able to play across multiple gaps. And one of the things that helps a heck of a lot playing across multiple gaps is arm length. And at 32 and a quarter, he has off arm length that would be small for a center prospect, which is not what you want for somebody handling and playing across multiple gaps. So big plug, very strong at the point of attack, but probably not a versatile player, probably just a true nose and not much athletic upside. So I'm guessing probably late day 3 for a team that's really looking for a one technique or true zero technique at the position.
Yeah, I like that as well. Brad D coming in. What about Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin? I absolutely love this kid. I love his teammate, Jack Sandsborn, even more. Just because I think
Sandsborn more.
Yeah, just because you could get him later. They're not the same player, but I mean, like, I would you know me. I want to already draft Muma, so I'm looking for maybe a really late linebacker or something like that, just in case. You know what I mean? But it's so one of those things for me because obviously Leo, I think he's going to go a lot earlier than people think. I think he's a top prospect. I love that kid from Wisconsin.
Yeah, he is actually a freak type of athlete, and people don't really respect it because it's not the type of freak athlete that people want from the linebacker position. People want the Luke Kuechly moving backward in space, looking like a legitimate cornerback in coverage. And while Leo Chenal isn't that, he is a freak athlete coming downhill with his power. They lined him a lot at Wisconsin as a shaded nose tackle on a lot of rush snaps, and he was strong enough that he was digging out 290-pound, 300-pound centers and beating them with blitzes and whatnot. He's very, very good being a force player in the run game between the hash marks. And I think the area of the conversation and where it's lost with players who are that good in the run game is like, well, what is he like in coverage? And eventually, yes, that could be an issue. That's why he's not going to be a first-round pick. But he is so good against the run and so powerful in that way that he allows you to play lighter defensive linemen who are better against pinning their ears back. He allows you to play more defensive backs. He allows you to only play one linebacker and not be killed against the run so you can play more defensive backs. So I really like Leo Chenal.
He has those instincts, man. Like you're describing all of those instincts that Peyton just gloated about Josie Jewell yesterday. About, look, is Josie Jewell going to run the fastest 40? No. But you watch him play, he's a lot faster than you think, and he can move, and he like you could it was just glaring like what reaches George Payton and what he values. And you look at him paying, Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick and loving the blue collar mentality of George Payton wanting to reward guys. And you start looking at, okay, well, he's got to be looking at this for a draft profile. Leo Chenal absolutely fits that for George Payton. Gavin coming back in. Thoughts about the linebacker from Bama?
Christian Harris, pretty much a point and shoot kind of player right now. He ran a really good 40, but he's very linear right now. I don't love his fluidity and his hip sideline to sideline, and I don't think he's always the best at reading and reacting. I think he's much better like you're targeting this hole and hitting it hard kind of thing. So I think you probably, if he's there at like 75 or 96, you think about it, but I wouldn't take him at 64. I think there's going to be better linebackers there and ones who make more sense for what you're looking for with a more dynamic skill set in the ways that he is built and an athlete.
I'm gonna like do what you did to me last year when I wanted, who was it? Dylan Moses, I think. I was pounding the table for 1 million linebackers, and you're like, I think he's just the Alabama thing, some of the injuries, the tire, the tread. I worry about that in the SEC, man, because that's where the big boys play, and man, they take a lot of punishment, even if you're on defense, from some of those Alabama running backs and everything like that. Kathy coming in. What's up, Kathy Lund? Good to see you. Sorry I'm late. What I miss? Absolutely nothing. The party is rocking. We appreciate you joining in on MHI. Good to see you, Kathy. Leroy Williams, Daryl Washington also joining the show, showing some love. Really appreciate you guys. And Daryl firing away. Select Quay Walker. Georgia Bulldog with pick 64. No problem. I'm okay with it. I really am. I like this kid a lot. I think he's got a ton of those instincts. I like his aggressive nature. I think he's got a natural flow for the game. He's got to develop still. Very, very raw in my opinion, but I would love to see what they could do with him in this new defensive scheme. He's got energy. They're always talking about energy over there. The first time you put on your tape, you see this kid has energy. Flies around.
Yeah, I mean, he's prototype. If you built one in the lab, it would look like Quay Walker. 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds, 32, just over 32 and a half inch arm length, jumped and ran out of the gym. And he actually, at Georgia, they have 3 linebackers that you're going to have to get to know in this class if you're calling Trevon Walker an edge. But they have Channing Tindall, Nakobe Dean, who gets most of the hype, and Quay Walker. And a lot of times at Georgia with their defense, they would actually use Quay Walker as the linebacker to go over and play over the slot and play in space over Nakobe Dean. He's a fluid player. I don't think he's going to make as many game-changing tackles behind the line of scrimmage. That's not really his game, but he doesn't let much get behind him either. And I think he's the more fluid, lengthy, buildy linebacker than Nakobe Dean, who I think, because of Nakobe Dean's very small size, is more scheme-dependent than Quay Walker. So I love Quay Walker. He's actually my linebacker 2 in this class, ahead of Nakobe Dean and ahead of Chad Muma. So if Quay Walker's there, I don't really value the linebacker position.
Ahead of Devin Lloyd too?
Not ahead of Devin Lloyd.
Oh, okay.
Devin Lloyd's my number 1. Quay Walker's my number 2.
Gotcha. All right.
That's.
I was getting ready to throw a fit. I was like, whoa. I know you devalue him, but
yeah. No,
I almost had me cursed there. I almost dropped an S-bomb on there, but.
Yeah, I would love Quay Walker, though, and I don't really value the linebacker position as much as others, but with his athleticism and size and solid instincts, I think he's got a much higher ceiling than Nakobe Dean. David coming in here with the support. Thank you so much, David. You're a nut. I love you for it, and appreciate the support all the way through. Leroy also coming in saying, we have so many options at 64. It's so confusing on what Peyton is going to do. Too much thinking. Can't wait until next Friday for us to pick. Well, if you're feeling frustrated and confused and perplexed by it, hopefully other teams' GMs are as well. And my thing is, this is really a what's the word I'm looking for? A testament to the team building process that George Payton has done so far this offseason. Now, kind of had to do that because don't have any picks in the top 50 this year. Don't have any first or second round picks next year. You kind of have to have the roster decently set up to go right now when you're picking outside the top 50. But Broncos could go anyway, and that's a really good place to be because you have options in the draft. And if there isn't somebody you love there, you can kick back. If there's somebody falling that you love, you can go barely move forward, maybe package one of those back-to-back fourth rounders to move up 10 or so slots. So we'll see. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. And I love the options because that means that the Broncos are going to walk away with a good player. It's when you are in a situation where if I don't walk away with position X, that's when bad decisions are made.
It's hard to guess what another guy's going to do when he's only been here like 1 year
Yeah.
for one draft and he hit it out of the park. You kind of just got to roll with the punches. And no matter what happens, we're feeling great about Russ. So
Yeah.
maybe let him cook, man. And just that's it. Let's go get Cook. How about that? Late round running back. Speaking of running backs, you can find a new piece that Nick Kendall dropped. I was reading it right before we came on the show on milehighhuddle.com. You can reach out to Nick at Nick Kendall MHH, yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Todd Smith is coming in saying, hey, what's up, Todd? Thanks for joining us. Wanted to get our friend the Brainstorm in here as well. Who's the only guy you would trade up for, I assume? Or let's do who's a guy that you would trade up for pick 64 right now?
Pick from 64 on up. Like
64
climbing the
on
board.
up. Yeah, like
Okay.
your dream scenario for who you want the Broncos to get in the second round in a trade going up.
Man, my dream scenario would be Daxton Hill. I am
Ooh.
obsessed with Daxton Hill from Michigan.
Ooh.
He is super long, kind of a shorter build, but he's actually a safety that I think could play every single perimeter spot on the defense. He could play wide cornerback. He could play slot. He could play two high. He could play single high. Now, you're not going to have him play in the box as, the Cam Chancellor type of safety, but you can find other body types for that. But I absolutely adore a Daxton Hill. And and I know safety is a devalued position, but not one who can play the slot, play the free safety, and play boundary cornerback like Daxton Hill can with his athleticism, size, tackling ability as well. He's a really good tackler. So if he falls to pick 40, I'm calling and saying, hey, what can I do to get up there? I think he's one of my favorite players in this class and has been for a bit.
I love Muma, so I would obviously try to grab him if there was a run in linebackers. I don't know that there would be, but what's weird is I've seen a lot of mocks lately with Trent McDuffie early in the second or late in the first, and I like him a lot. I think that would be bold and crazy if Peyton went out and used the very first pick to go get another corner. I don't think it's going to happen, but I like this cat's game. I liked his teammate Molden a lot coming out a little bit ago. But size, that 5'11", 193, it's ideal, but it's a position you've invested a lot in already with free agency, with premium. So I like Trey McBride. I don't know that I would move up to go get him. I'm kind of slowing down a little on that, but I'm really high on Muma. So there we go. And Phil's coming in here, catching that safety talk you were just throwing down, saying, hello, Nick. Hello, Luke. Is there a safety you like? And when should we look to go get one? Okay, we can't move up to go get a safety, Nick, but I know that you've looked a lot and you've wrote about a lot of safeties during this draft. One guy for me, I think Kirby Joseph, I think would be a reasonable pick. I think he was Illinois, Idaho? Illinois. Okay. I think he's a decent round safety that you could probably get in, day 3. Where would you consider taking a safety, and where do you put that in the list of needs for the Broncos right now? Because Cook will be a late one as well. Brian Cook. Trying to think of some more. JT Woods, guys like that. What would you tell Phil about the safety position in the draft?
I have 5 safeties that I would take at 64 if you include Kyle Hamilton, who won't be there, but 4 safeties who's going to be, late round 1 through round 2. I already talked about one being Daxton Hill, who I adore. Another one to consider there is Lewis Seen from Georgia, a freak athlete, one of the better players at coming downhill and tackling. You want to talk about playing lighter boxes. You need your safeties then to be able to come down and be aggressive and fill gaps, especially in the quick pass game. And Lewis Seen, you can go back and watch 2 years ago when Georgia played Florida, and he killed Kyle Pitts a few times, killed him, eye-popping hits. After that, you have Jalen Petrie, who I adore as well. I think Petrie is so good from the slot and playing that will position that you can live with one single linebacker and have Petrie be the de facto other linebacker on the field. And that's, I think, super valuable in today's NFL if you're looking to be living in nickel and dime packages more often. And then there's also Jaquan Brisker, who I don't like as much as those other guys, but I think could be considered at 64. Nick Cross is one of the youngest players in the draft, tested like a freak athlete from Maryland. Keep an eye out for him. You touched on Kirby Joseph. I like him a lot. I also got to give a shout out to my guy here, but Dane Belton from Iowa tested really well, had 5 interceptions last year from Iowa. Pretty good tackler there, great ball skills, good zone feel. If you're looking for that kind of slot star safety position, he's a really good one to consider. And then you have your hybrid safety cornerbacks that played cornerback but could be moving to safety that I adore in this class too. Alante Taylor from Tennessee, lengthy, physical, good tackler, good mover. You mentioned it already, Cam Taylor-Britt. I love Cam Taylor-Britt. We'll talk about him in a bit. And
And a
Marcus
Brit.
Jones as well. Short arm length, but a dynamic punt returner, very aggressive at the catch point. He might be kind of a matchup safety in the mold of a Antoine Winfield, who's been really good for the Tampa Bay
Oh,
Buccaneers.
amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, keep an eye on if Marcus Jones' shoulders are good. I would be extremely happy about him, even though he doesn't have great arm length, because he is that aggressive. And the returning ability, he's the best returner in the draft as well.
I think that's a position that you could probably put some competition on because KJ coming back is another short-term deal. This is the Broncos are trying to load up and make a run here. This isn't a let's throw it all together, get to the postseason, and then we'll be ready. No, this is time to roll now, and
No.
you need to make sure that you've got guys on special teams that can contribute immediately and step in, just like Caden Stearns was asked to do last year. It's hard to do, man. I mean, the defensive back position in the NFL. It's got to be one of the hardest positions to play just because the refs are obviously going against you as well. And it's tough. So I'm curious, but Willie, once again, weighing in, Willie Barron, thank you so much. Any USFL guys you like to see go to the Broncos?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've watched hardly any USFL. So let's just bring Sloter back for the fun of it. I saw that he had a great game with Paxton Lynch on the other side having a terrible game. So just for the laughs, because that's what we're here for with somebody that far down the roster and just for the narrative. Kyle Sloter. Let's do it.
Kyle Sloter, Team Sloter. Yeah, I think I was watching Shea Patterson the other day or something like that. It was funny because I actually sat down to try to watch a game today, and then I was actually talking to Chad Jensen on the phone for a little bit, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to figure out this USFL thing." He's like, "You recognize anybody?" I'm like, "I really don't, but I like the being able to hear the play." I'm curious to see what is adopted, like a few seasons from now, maybe from these leagues, because all kinds of stuff comes from these leagues. And I was telling Chad, one of my favorite 30 for 30s was Small Pennies or something like that with the USFL. And then obviously the XFL 30 for 30 was good too. And XFL getting ready to launch. Wade Phillips, son of bum, head coach in the XFL. So that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be a lot of fun to see it. And Travis coming in. Thank you so much for the support, Travis. Travis says, "Good evening, Nick, Luke, Scott, and Broncos country. What do you guys think of Braxton Jones? And would you be okay if Denver drafted him?" I would be okay with him at pick 115 or 116. I thought he handled himself quite well at the Senior Bowl. He's a little bit stiff. He's not like a crazy dynamic athlete, but it was good enough with the length and the body size he has. And I think he can be a good run blocker too. So somebody you take there round 3 and you hope he can develop into a cheap option at right tackle. And even if he becomes just a slightly below average starter at the right tackle spot for that type of pick investment, that's an okay. And then you can either go cheap one season at that position. Obviously, you want all pros at every single spot, but if you can go super cheap at one position for a year when you're paying Russell Wilson the front end of that contract, live with it at right tackle, it can get you by. That's the bottom line, I think, for Braxton Jones. You might have better than that too. But I do like him there round 4 for the Broncos.
I like Braxton Jones as well.
Yeah.
I think we're talking stereotypes. He's got a great frame. I'd like to see him tighten up a little bit. I think he'd be able to move a lot better if he lightened up a little as well. But I like this kid's strength. I like his hand placement. I like where he puts his head in the run game. It's just one of those things where I agree. I wouldn't go up to go get this kid or anything like that. I think he's going to be in striking distance. And I'm curious. We don't know what the offensive line coach and what Justin Outen really values with offensive linemen just yet. So you're going to see a peek of it. I mean, because you saw a little bit of free agency with some journeyman right tackles coming in, other than Billy Turner, obviously, who we are thrilled is back in the Mile High City, but it's a 1-year deal. Right? Or was it a 2-year deal? I thought it was a 1-year deal.
It's 1 year.
Okay. Deal. Yeah. So it's a 1-year deal. So it's just, again, another revolving door, and we'll see if Billy comes back. But you got to address the right tackle position. Absolutely love it, Travis.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And we also got Todd coming in. Is Jadeveon Clowney still available? He is. A lot of things come to a pause before the draft, and he could be waiting until closer to the regular season where a team has an injury or something like that, where then you make that move. So it's still available. We'll see what happens. There's some big defensive ends that are still available. I also like Carlos Dunlap for a cheap 1-year deal. Will be interesting to see where these guys go after the draft. But again, all eyes on Vegas, everything about the NFL draft. And speaking of the NFL draft, Luke and I are going to talk a little bit today about our Red Star prospects. Kind of hinted at it earlier, but a Red Star guy is somebody where a scout is given 1 to 2 Red Stars and they can put it on a player's card saying like, listen, this is Luke's star player. Luke, you have the floor here. Why should we take this guy right now with the two red stars are on the board here? It's Luke versus Bob over here in the corner. We're each going to hear it because one of these guys is probably going to be on the board when we're picking. Which one are we going with? So, Luke, we hinted at it earlier, but let's just dive fully into it. Trey McBride, one of your red stars there. Is it Chad? Let's hear it. Let's hear Trey
Muma.
McBride, your red star.
It's actually Muma. Yeah,
Oh,
for
Muma.
me,
Let's do it.
for me, it's Muma. And yeah, I called it a red dot earlier. Yeah, no, the red star. It's who are you banging the table for? I'm banging the table for Chad Muma. When Logan Wilson is standing there, and obviously he's gonna talk to me about his teammate and build him up. When he's saying, "Man, this guy's more athletic than I was," I'm looking at it like, dude, you were just playing in the Super Bowl and you were arguably the best coverage linebacker in the game, at least top 3. Okay, you've got my attention. This guy can hear. He plays piano. He can hear a song and then be able to go play the song. AD told me. He's a sideline to sideline freak linebacker that is born and bred in Broncos country, went up to play at Wyoming because CSU bailed on him when he got hurt in high school. So I'll take a little jab at the Rams for that. But Trey McBride, same class. I like Trey a lot. I just think Chad Muma is not a generational linebacker, but I think he's the closest thing you can get to one in round 2. I think he's a home run hit. I really do. I'm not saying that just because he's in Wyoming and I got to go see him and I love the university and everything like that. I'm not saying it, but I just, this kid for me, he does it. His speed, you can't coach that. The agility, you can't coach that. His 3-cone, his 40, everything I absolutely love. I would love to see him put a little bit of weight on, but he's my dream scenario. I'm pounding the table for this kid. To me, he could step in and play right now. I don't think he's going to make a Pro Bowl in the first year. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Micah Parsons or anything, but he's a guy that you can bring in and pair with a Baron Browning, pair with a Josie Jewell, and can make up for some of those deficits.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like Chad Muma a lot, and I would be, how much I devalue the linebacker position. Some of it's sometimes be a little bit inflammatory, provocative, right? Nobody knows what that means. But Chad Muma, I'd be okay with it at 64. The rest of the board would be interesting to see, but you're right. I think the thing that stands out for me about Chad Muma is I feel like he never plays ahead of himself. Everything is very smooth and connected. Now, does that mean that he's making the crazy highlight hits where, the ball is handed off to the running back and boom, he's right there? No, but you're also not finding him out of position, which I value way more from the linebacker position because it's more about the structure of the defense. And it's the anti-Kenneth Murray. The Chargers a few years ago trade up for Kenneth Murray, who at Oklahoma was,
and I liked him a ton.
I was not that big of a fan.
Okay.
But it was because he was biting too hard. His hips were in the wrong place. His eyes were always in the wrong place. And he was getting himself out of position, leading to big plays. Now, he made a lot of splash plays there at Oklahoma, but he also gave up just as many splash plays behind him. And that's a no non-starter for me for a position like the linebacker. So for Chad Muma, I don't see that with him at all. I think he plays the game is pretty darn slow for him, and he's very fluid and deliberate in his moves. I do think the instincts could tick up a tad as far as his aggression, making tackles closer to the line of scrimmage. Maybe he's a little bit too passive sometimes, getting off blocks and that kind of thing. But the length, the fluidity, nothing is hard for him. And you can watch him play. The fluidity I talk about is he was a safety in high school, recruited as a safety, and you can still see that ability in him. Now, do you want him lining up on it's a 3x1 and he gets matched out wide one-on-one on the one side of the 3x1 with Travis Kelce versus Darren Waller? No, that's not a matchup for, there's probably 2 linebackers in football. You can be okay with that. But if you're lining up with a, off or a detached running back, a slot wide receiver in some looks even, or a tight end, he can do that and excel there. Good length, good movement. I like him a lot. I really do.
And you're going to see that with Austin Eckler, right? I mean, what do the Chargers love to do with him? Throw him the ball. And it's one of those things where the running back position has evolved into, you got to be able to catch. George Payton talked about, you got to be able to pass block with Javonte Williams yesterday. But I like Muma. I like Troy Anderson too. Look, I'd be really, really pumped with him as well. I just don't think he has, in my opinion, the same lateral quickness, the same speed. They're all comparative, right? When you look at the measurables, and the size difference and the metrics are there. But for me, it's Muma. I'm absolutely pounding the table. He's got my star. McBride, I like him a lot too. Not in the same need for me right now. And we'll get into that a little bit on the tail end, and we're already at 6:45 here in the show. But no, I'm pounding the table. My guy, Chad Muma, University of Wyoming. What say you? Your star. I'm guessing. Can I give it a guess here? Are we going safety?
I have a few stars here, and Daxton Hill would be my true star
Yeah.
here. But I absolutely, because I adore him, but I don't think there's any chance in heck that he falls to Denver within range. I think he's going to go first round. I actually am scared to death he's going to go to the Chiefs. I think he'd be a phenomenal pick with one of the Chiefs.
Titans, Vrabel.
Maybe with Vrabel. I know how the Chiefs really value those versatile safeties. I mean, they paid Juwan Thornhill, or excuse me, the guy for Justin Reed. They have Juwan Thornhill. He just screams Chiefs at the end of the first round. Scares me there. Could see maybe one of the early first round picks as well. The thing I don't know about the Titans is they have Amani Hooker there, who really plays a good star role for them right now. But it is a safety, and for me, it's going to be Jalen Petrie here. Okay. I love Jalen Petrie. I think he's modern defense to a T. And if you're looking for a team that wants to play 6+ defensive backs a majority of your snaps, Jalen Petrie allows you to live there. Let me pull up the stats here. He led the Big 12 last year in tackles for loss, and he also had 31 tackles for loss in 23 games this past 2 seasons. He's one of the best slot players that I've seen coming out of the draft. He doesn't have incredible length, but his short area quickness, his ball skills, his tackling, his intelligence, coaches rave about him. If you listen at all about Jalen Petrie, coaches, anybody who's worked with him say this is like one of the most hard grinding football guys you've ever been around. Also, he logged 451 special team snaps over his career at Baylor, playing in every single coverage unit, and also an academic All-American and a All-American All-American. So I really love Jalen Petrie. And I know that safety is a position where historically you can find them round 2, you can find them round 4 or 5. And heck, Caden Stearns looks great, and we found him round 5 last year. The Broncos did.
He looks all right. He looks all right. I wouldn't say great. Yeah. We both have.
He's good for a 5th rounder for sure. Like that's
I love the Petrie thing, man. Yeah, like I think we talked about this cat out of Baylor, man. Like when you put on his film, we talked about him earlier. Winfield, man. Like here's the thing, Petrie's gonna get a little bit of heat because people are gonna say he doesn't look like a stereotypical safety because he's undersized. Winfrey's not a big guy either. Go look at it. I mean, like him and Tyreek Hill are seeing eye to eye. Okay. So it's just one of those things where I think he does make up for maybe not being 6'1" or 6'2" with his physicality. This guy, man, he's a firecracker. And you talk about football acumen. I absolutely love it. The defensive backs, I'm never going to push back against a defensive back, man. I love a hard hitting safety just as much as the next person. And when the Broncos have had such a historic run at safety, it's especially hard hitting safeties. That's not Justin. Justin's the ball hawk. K-Jack, just please, for the love of God, don't hurt PS2 out there like you did our guy from Jacksonville. What was his name? AJ Boye. Don't need that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got the brainstorm coming in saying, in your eyes, who's the most complete team in the AFC West? The most complete team, I'm going to go with the Broncos. I think they are the most complete team right now. Like we haven't had the draft yet, and they're one of the teams that don't have a first round pick. But defense, offensive line. Now they do have holes, and I don't think they have the most dominating singular unit in the division. But I think that the Broncos actually are the most complete team. You could make an argument for the Chargers, but I think the Chargers' offensive line, especially the right side of the offensive line, is a far greater weakness than the Broncos. So that's the tiebreaker for me, leaning with Denver.
That's interesting because you got Schofield out there, right? And then I don't know who their guard is.
They have Trey Pipkins, who's not very good there at right tackle. Okay. They have another right tackle who's struggling.
Oh, they moved. Schofield's not starting anymore?
And not to my knowledge. I think it's probably going to be Trey Pipkins. They have another guy too whose name's escaping me, but their right side of their offensive line is not very good. Just put it lightly.
Yeah, I think the Broncos is a good answer. I think the Chargers would be a second one for me. I wrote a piece a couple days ago. PFF put out a graphic talking about which receiving duo is the most underrated. And obviously Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton were there. But then when you sit down and you compare the numbers and you kind of crank some stuff out between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, it's not even close. And I know who was throwing him the ball last year. I get it versus Teddy and Drew and that whole mess. But the Chargers, don't sleep on them, folks. I think that's a really, really good question. I love it. And our guy, Andrew Baker's coming in. What's up, Andrew? Sup, my fam? my fam Damley and Nick, Luke, and Scott, a worst case scenario question. If Russ Wilson goes down, what kind of backup do or should we have? Super Bowl 50 was in a way thanks to Brock beating Patriots to get us there. Hashtag MHH for life. So I wrote about it a couple weeks ago, Andrew, on Mile High Huddle, kind of forecasting the backup quarterback competition. How good does that feel? We don't have to worry about who won the day. No more. You're going to have Brett Rippon, and then you're going to have Josh Johnson. I think that's what it's looking like right now. I'm really curious to see Josh Johnson, if I'm going to be honest, because I don't know what to expect, man. This cat's bounced all over professional football, and Russell Wilson was handpicked by him. So you know that Russ has some love or is getting to know Brett, had Brett out there at the passing camp as well. So that'll be interesting to me. An interesting battle. I wouldn't be shocked if they added a rookie, though.
Yeah, for me, it's if Russell Wilson goes down, find some other hobbies on your Sunday or try to find other things to enjoy about the Broncos games because the season's over. And at this point, that's just how it's going to be. Most teams are like that. If the Chiefs lose Mahomes, if the Chargers lose Herbert, it's going to be rough. And the Broncos aren't really set up in a position to probably use a early resource on a quarterback. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well,
So
and they're not gonna. Garrett Bowles said the other day nothing's gonna happen to him.
yeah,
So
there we go.
I think we're good, and
Yeah.
we could give GB hell. I don't really care, man. Like he needs to improve, but I love what he's talking about because he's out there. He's out there saying, "I'm trying to focus on my job right now because there's nothing saying in stone I'm the starting left tackle. I need to worry about me." And I'm like, dude, Garrett Bowles has grown up. I absolutely love it. So I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Absolutely. We also got Corey H coming in with the super $10. Thank you so much, Corey. We appreciate you saying, I don't know where or how, but I have this feeling that we need a couple more pieces for that threat, for it to be a threat for the whole thing. Just a gut feeling. Let's hope we can get one of those pieces this week. Let's hope we can get a couple of those pieces. But this draft isn't just about this year. This draft is about the long term. And you can tell that with the press conference. I think from the press conference yesterday with George Payton, he's talking about offensive tackles. He's talking about cornerbacks. He's talking about edge rushers, all positions that typically take a couple seasons after you draft them to really hit their own, and all positions where the Broncos could have a maybe not a major hole in 2022, but 2023 after Russell Wilson gets paid. Some concern. All your right tackles, free agents. Darby, you can save $10 million with only $3 million dead. That could be a big hole at cornerback. Edge rusher. We don't know about Randy Gregory long term. His deal is essentially a 2-year deal. Bradley Chubb, free agency after this. So talking about those positions makes me think that this draft isn't just about one or two pieces away for this season. It's about getting guys on the roster that can be rotational this season, but then project to be starters on cost-controlled contracts 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, you've got to have a budget if you're the Denver Broncos because you're getting ready to pay Russ. And I hope it happens sooner rather than later because I don't want anything to be messy. And I think George knows that and Russ knows that. And I think those conversations are probably going on as we speak. One thing that I was really impressed with, speaking of the future, is Darren Moogie only going to be here for this year? Because that guy I was so impressed with, Nick. He's had a couple opportunities and he spoke about progressing and advancing into other opportunities, but he turned them down. And when you're getting hand groomed by George Payton and you're in a great spot, Elway gave you your first opportunity. I'm just looking at Darren Moogie talking yesterday like, man, I would hate it if you landed somewhere in the AFC West because I think the NFL is getting ready to see Darren Moogie run his own team.
Probably pretty soon. Luke, do you have any more Red Star guys to maybe hit on here before we get on out? I have one more for pick 64 and then one that's more of a day 3 guy that maybe he ends up going day 2 now, but I felt like for a long time people were not as high on him as they should have been. So I guess go ahead.
Yeah, no. I like Drake Jackson from USC. When we start talking about edge, it got that injury late last season and people are wondering about that. Peyton's talking extensively yesterday about how much he values the medical portion, just like teams should. Not all teams do. But I really think this cat improved his draft stock since he came out of USC and the season stopped, and he's had a decent NFL offseason, but I like his potential. He's got a high motor. His film shows that. I think he's got some loose hips. I think at times he can play a lot stiffer and I think he should have more bend than he actually does. But
Mhm.
I like this cat a lot out of USC. I generally try to stay away from some of those Pac-10 or Pac-12, whatever the hell they're called, players, just because it's so sometimes boring and lopsided games when you're watching those film and you look at the score and you're like, holy cow. But then you see some highlight tapes and you see some absolute great stuffs. He knows how to step the edge. I like him a lot.
Yeah, man. The thing that steps out for me is his verticals. His jumps at the combine were outstanding. It's 86th percentile vertical jump at
Athlete.
37 inches, and then the 94th percentile 127-inch jump. He also has a really good frame as far as his wingspan and arm length. The wingspan of 82 and 5/8 inches is the 80th percentile. Not the heaviest guy, but I think he's going to be more of a stand-up edge. And only 20 years old. I think something that absolutely stupefies me, though, I was going over his data from the combine to the pro day at USC, and he went from 250 to 274 in 1 month going there. And it's not the the edge rusher from Cincinnati, whose name's escaping me right now, who had like a viral illness which weighed like 224. It's not like that, I don't think. So really curious to see that. I really like Drake Jackson, though. I think he's got a good toolkit to become a good edge rusher at pick 64. Very young, so a lot of upside. He has some ghost moves too, where like offensive tackles can't even get hands on him. It's beautiful.
I like Pascal more. I will
Okay,
secede that. I do like I like the Kentucky edge rusher a lot more, but just a new name I wanted to throw out there. I like Jackson from USC a lot with his potential, but he is young, so you're gonna have to deal with that. Just like you are dealing with some of these young guys like Bradley Chubb. He's dealing with injuries. Well, sometimes it takes a young pass rusher a little while to come into the league, and Draymond Jones is just now starting to hit his stride. You're gonna have to see.
Yep, and the edge rushing spot. I know. Oh, you already have Jonathan Cooper. You have Malik Reed, who had a lot of sacks last year. You paid Randy Gregory. You have Bradley Chubb.
What'd Peyton say yesterday, Nick? What'd he say?
More pass rushers, the better. You want to have a wave of them.
Boom.
Also, I have data here. Last year, the top 5 edge rushers as far as sack production were TJ Watt, 22.5 sacks, Robert Quinn, 18.5, Myles Garrett, 16, Nick Bosa at 15.5, and Trey Hendrickson at 14. None of those guys played 80% of the snaps. A few of them 65% and 64%. And that's just one edge rusher. If you have 2 edge rushers out there playing that percentage of snaps, that means you almost have, crazy amount of snaps out there for your edge rusher to get at it. Almost a whole, you could have another guy playing 60% of the snaps. So your edge rushing depth is of the most really, really valuable because you're going to rotate those guys. And heck, people talk about the no-fly zone, but having Shane Ray, Shaq Barrett, Von Miller, and DeMarcus Ware, along with Malik Jackson and Derek Wolfe and Sly Williams, doing all that made a big difference.
Yeah.
Another Red Star guy for me here, real quick. You mentioned him, and I won't go too far because I'll get a chance to wax about him in my mock draft coming up. Josh Pascal, 64. Love him. I wish his arms were a little longer. I wish he was a little bit younger. He's versatile. You can play him inside. You can play him outside. He's a really good edge setter. I think he led the SEC in tackles for loss the past 2 seasons.
Yep.
And also beat cancer and came back. Another guy who coaches will like talk your ear off about the character of Josh Pascal and the leadership he provided. So 64, I'd be totally about him. Red Star player for me.
Yeah, he's a great story, and I think character matters a lot to George Payton, and he's going to be sure to draft a good one here with this first premium pick. Seeing some questions here as we're kind of rounding out the show. Free Earth Citizen joining in. Thank you so much. Our number 1 priority has to be protecting Russell Wilson. Take an offensive tackle with pick number 64. I think Abraham Lucas is probably my guy from going offensive tackle at pick 64 if he's there. But man, to me, that means Muma has to be gone. Anderson is obviously gone for linebacker, and I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't be super pumped, if I'm going to be honest with you, though. But I think Free Earth Citizen's right. You got to keep your big investment, who you're about to pay the richest quarterback salary ever. You got to make sure he's protected. So that goes with the O-line.
Yeah, and Paul says he's going to put the Red Star on Kenneth Walker or Breece Hall there at 64 just to be different.
Wow.
Those 2 guys are good enough where if they're there at 64, I know we just took Javonte Williams last year, but if you read my article that just came out, sorry, Chad, it was 2,000 words, but I was on a roll and I had a lot of points to make.
Tell me about that. Because it came in, I think right as I was talking to him, and he's like, Nick's got a piece. I'm like, oh, what's it about? And he told me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll read about that. And then, I just started, guys, milehighhuddle.com, talking about why running back is a sleeper position, at least for the Denver Broncos right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like cheese pizza, but I'm more of a guy, get some mushrooms on there, some veggies, all that stuff. But hello,
Meat.
Funky.
Get some
Yeah,
meat on there, man. Get some pepper, some chicken, some sausage, pepperoni. You gotta get something on there.
wife's a vegetarian, so I've been started to really dabble and enjoy the ones with all the veggies. I mean, anything with mushrooms on it. Oh, I love mushrooms so
I
much.
hated mushrooms growing up, and I love them as an adult. It
Oh,
is
so good.
so weird. I don't know. Michael Ranquilla, what's up, our guy? Great show tonight, Nick and Luke. Let's ride and go Broncos. Michael's coming in hot from Arizona, man, repping the orange and blue. Tracy's baby, what's up, Tracy's baby? When is the draft again? That draft is going to start on Thursday night, round 1. The Broncos' first pick is number 64. In round 2, the very last pick. So starting Thursday night, going Thursday through Saturday, we will have exclusive MHH coverage right here on these airwaves with the schedule / release of how we're doing things. We're doing things a little bit different this year. Should be really fun, really exciting. We have all been plugged into that this last weekend. So stay tuned. You could stay tuned at Mile High Huddle for that draft notifications and everything that is the Denver Broncos coming up here in the next few days.
All right. Well, I have one more Red Star guy here. Somebody who's probably going to go day 3, but may sneak his way up into the top. And that guy for me is tight end from San Diego State, Daniel Bellinger. And I adore Daniel Bellinger. I was
Good player.
a little bit flabbergasted that recently Daniel Jeremiah had him as his number 3 overall tight end in this class, because I was like, oh, I'm seeing him in the PFF simulator round 6. And I'm like, oh, I can put him round 4 and I'll be totally fine. Oh, now he's your number 3 tight end. I'm concerned. But Daniel Bellinger, probably one of my favorite blocking tight ends in this class. I think he can actually add a little bit more mass to his frame, but came in at about 255, 6'5". And man, he really gets after it as a blocker. And the biggest question for me, is that because of San Diego State, which is like the opposite of the air raid, they're like still a power run team. He didn't have a lot of snaps that were vertical down down from the line of scrimmage, where you can figure out if he could run, in open space and how he is comfortable tracking the football or whatever. But this dude is such a good athlete, such a translatable athlete, that I don't want to say I'm getting the Kittle vibes from him, but it's a very similar story to Kittle, where it's like, oh, he's just inline blocker and they have some dump offs for him close to the line of scrimmage. Never really found out more about him, but that's kind of the body type and frame and skill set that I am highlighting, looking for value. I don't think it'll be Kittle, but maybe even you can get a Foster Moreau, who's been a really good tight end too for the Las Vegas Raiders for a number of years now, in line blocking, H-back stuff. So as well. So I really like Daniel Bellinger. He's one of my favorite players in the draft, and I will say he's my final Red Star we'll talk about.
Yeah, Albert O is not known for his blocking. Let's just say that, right? I think that's a really good. I like it. I like that pick. Because here's the thing. People are forgetting about some of the other edge rushers in the AFC West. This division, man, is going to be really, really rough. How can you help that? Get a blocking tight end, a guy that loves to block. But I wonder about the route tree knowledge. I wonder about what he could bring to the offensive game. But you saw what Saubert did last year when he did get the ball. I think he got 1 touchdown, a few catches here and there. But if he was given more of an opportunity, I just wonder. And then you look at a young rookie like this who's got plenty of tread on the tire, good story, effort. Man, when I see a guy like the George Kittle block on Von Miller last year, put a pancake in him. Come on, man. That got me so pumped. But I like it a lot. I love tight end. It's a cool position. It's constantly evolutionizing the NFL, and the Broncos got to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. They got to figure it out. But who knows? We'll see what it looks like. Luke, you have any more here before we get on out? If you don't, that's totally fine.
I am ready to rock and roll. Looks like we're sitting right at the 1 hour mark. So I want to make sure we don't get in trouble from the YouTube. Brad D, what's up? Thanks, Nick, Luke, and Scott. You guys rock. Thank you guys. You guys rock. Craig Smith. I look forward. I get up on Saturday mornings, no matter what I'm doing with the family, what I'm doing with friends, out and about. I'm always looking forward to Saturday night. We're always talking throughout the week about what we want our shows to be. And I love Saturday nights, man. And next Saturday is going to be even funner because we're going to have rounds 4 through 7 here on MHI.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Make sure you guys are following Luke on Twitter. Luke is at Luke Patterson LP. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at MHI_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us on our Facebook communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Number one thing you can do to support us. We're almost at 15,000 subscribers. We might have just passed that even, but make sure if you guys haven't done so yet to get in there and subscribe, like, and share the show on YouTube pages. I mean, I know the Broncos got Russell Wilson over a month ago now, but the fun times are just getting started, guys. I mean, get in now. Let's get him from the ground up and enjoy this. Russell, he says, let's ride with Mile High Huddle, and join us by subscribing, liking, and sharing and following our content over on Mile High Huddle. And make sure you guys are tuning in with us over the draft. We're going to be live almost the entire thing with our reaction. The Broncos don't have a pick until 64 unless they trade up or if they trade back. But we're going to be going live. We're going to be talking about it, and we're going to be breaking it down from Broncos lens, but also just fans of the draft and the NFL game in general. It's all going to impact the Broncos. And heck, you want to hear about these guys now because 4 years from now, maybe these are some guys the Broncos are looking to bring in free agency. So who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and just last thing, because this will be the last time you see me until the draft is starting, or at least the draft will have started by the time you see me. You'll see Nick before on his Tuesday show and on Broncos for Breakfast, but one of the other, and on Friday's show. You're going to see Nick all the time next week. But no, one thing for me, man, get your Red Bull, get your caffeine, your coffee, whatever it is that you need, because we're always trying to load up. I know my wife asks me every year, what kind of coffee do you need? What do you need for the draft week? So here at MHH, man, we've got everything locked down, rounds 1 through 7, and it doesn't taper off 4 through 7, man. We've got some really exciting stuff for you guys this weekend, so stay tuned.
Yeah, guys, stay tuned. We'll see you all soon. Everyone have a good rest of your day. Happy Saturday. We appreciate the heck out of you. Choose kindness, choose compassion. Go Broncos. Let's ride.
Let's ride.